Hi, welcome to Movie Digest. In this video I'm going to explain crime thriller movie from 2018, titled Rust Creek. Spoilers ahead. The movie begins with Sawyer Scott, a senior college student, jogging around her school's running tracks. She gets a call from a company she had applied to work for, inviting her for an interview in Washington, D.C. She spends the next few days shopping for a nice outfit. On D-Day, she hits the road and listens to the radio while driving. Sawyer finds out there's traffic ahead, so she decides to consult her GPS for an alternative route to Washington, D.C. She passes a few towns and enters the countryside before driving into the Appalachian Mountains. She reaches a closed section of the road, so she turns back and follows another path provided by the GPS. On getting to an intersection, she discovers she's been going round in circles, so she drops the GPS and turns back again. Coincidentally, two guys holding shovels and burying something are nearby. They are worried she saw them. She finds a map in her car and parks. She comes down to take a look and doesn't notice her mom calling her phone. Shortly after, those two guys show up. One of them, Hollister, approaches her and offers to help. At first, she declines because she doesn't trust him, but she later changes her mind and tells him she's lost. He looks at her map and shows her the way out before folding the map and holding it. He pretends to leave with the other guy, named Buck. Just as Sawyer is about to get into her car, he moves toward her, blocks her, and skillfully uses his body to close the door. He returns her map and invites her for dinner, since she won't make it to town before it gets late. She turns him down, but he won't budge. Hollister holds her butt and laughs. Sawyer kicks him in the nuts and punches him. Buck comes at her from behind and holds her. She takes out his pocket knife and cuts him with it. Buck knocks the knife from her hand, and while she's trying to escape from his grip, he grabs her leg and stabs it. She kicks him hard in the face and runs into the forest. She hides behind a large rock and pulls out her sweater. When she sees the guys approaching, she throws a stone in a different direction to distract them. Her plan works, and she continues walking through the forest looking for a safe spot. Sawyer comes across a creek and drinks from it while trying to figure a path to the nearest road. She's frustrated as she ended up in the middle of nowhere. She sleeps in a space between two large rocks when it gets dark. Sheriff O'Doyle gets a stranded vehicle report the next day. Nick, his deputy, is curious to know what's up and O'Doyle briefs him. O'Doyle goes to the scene and meets Sawyer's car. He looks around for some clues when he sees a dried up pool of blood. Meanwhile, Sawyer just woke up. She sees a plane flying and tries to call out for help. She tries climbing to a higher ground but couldn't, because of her wounded leg. Sheriff pays Buck and Hollister a visit and questions them. They deny having anything to do with the stranded vehicle, and he leaves. Sawyer washes her wounds at the creek and ties them up with her sock. She's wandering through the woods when she sees her car falling in her direction from above. Sawyer dodges it. She hears Buck and Hollister coming, so she hides. She overhears them talking about killing her and dumping her body somewhere, before the state police get involved. After they've gone to look for her, she checks through the remains of her car and finds her phone. She goes around looking for a strong signal. By the time she gets it, her phone dies. It's night and she's moving around weak, hungry and frustrated before falling to the ground. Sawyer sees a man approaching before passing out. She wakes up on a bed the next morning, and finds out her wound has been treated. She's still weak, but manages to find her way to the kitchen. A man named Lowell walks in, and she grabs a knife. He tries to calm her down, but she grabs a can of lye and pours it into his face before passing out again. Lowell pours some milk on his face to ease the burns. Nick resumes work and sees Buck and Hollister coming out from the station. He asks O'Doyle what's going on, but O'Doyle doesn't give him a straight answer. Nick tries to get an update on the stranded car case, but O'Doyle refuses to talk about it. Nick complains that O'Doyle is too soft on those boys. O'Doyle reminds Nick that he's in charge, and tells him the stranded car had already been moved. Nick isn't satisfied and asks for permission to call the registered owners. O'Doyle grants it. Sawyer regains consciousness again, this time she's tied up. Lowell serves her water with a sandwich. While eating, she tries to tell him who she is and how she got there. She hears a car coming and screams for help. Lowell runs to cover her mouth and warns her she'd be killed if those people find her. He goes out to meet his cousins, Buck and Hollister. They talk about work. Hollister asks Lowell if he saw Sawyer. Lowell denies. Hollister decides to check around the house. Meanwhile, Sawyer is listening to their conversation and looking for a way to escape. She finds a can of lye and burns her ropes with it. Hollister tells Lowell he's acting strange and suspects Sawyer's inside. Buck goes in to check and doesn't see Sawyer. Lowell finds Sawyer at the back of the house after his cousins are gone. Commander Douglas inquires about the stranded car from O'Doyle, who tells him the car has long left the spot and is no longer a case, but Nick jumps in saying he called the registered owner, who happens to be Sawyer's mom, and found out Sawyer has been missing. Douglas is angry at O'Doyle for being negligent, and threatens to involve the state police if the girl isn't found soon. Lowell commends Sawyer for her smart escape. Sawyer asks him to let her go, but he refuses. He explains to her that it isn't safe for her out there and there are no towns nearby, but she wouldn't listen and protests, and he cuts her ropes and tells her to go if she wants to. He promises to use his cousin's car to get her to a safe place when they leave town by the weekend. Buck and Hollister are organizing their drug ingredients when O'Doyle shows up and punches Hollister. He scolds them for not finding Sawyer and killing her already. He also blames them for letting her see them while they were burying a dead body. Hollister explains that it wasn't their fault and everything happened so fast. He orders them to kill her before the state police show up and finds out about their drug business. He also orders them not to mess up their pending drug delivery. Lowell teaches Sawyer how to cook meth. He shows her his flask with anhydrous ammonia, and warns her it's dangerous enough to cause an explosion under room temperature. He tells her that his cousins were on their way, so she should go hide at the back of the trailer. She takes a knife and hides it in her pocket when he's not looking, although he discovers the knife's gone missing after she leaves the room. The brothers show up and deliver the ingredients at Lowell's house. After they leave, Lowell finds Sawyer at the creek and scolds her for not following his orders. He gives her a few directions to some nearby roads and gives her the option of leaving. Nick is on the phone with his wife, telling her he can't be home for Thanksgiving because he's working on Sawyer's case. O'Doyle steps in and orders him to take the day off. Nick's wife asks him to get her some cream on his way back. He remembers he has some in his office, so he goes back for it. He overhears O'Doyle yelling at Hollister over the phone and asking him to kill Sawyer already. O'Doyle hangs up and finds out Nick is still in the office. He tries to manipulate Nick into thinking the call isn't what it looks like, but Nick isn't buying it. Nick pulls out his gun and points it at O'Doyle while trying to leave the premises. O'Doyle begs Nick to reconsider what he's doing, but Nick insists on making him pay for his crimes. Nick accidentally drops his car keys on the floor and, while trying to pick them up, O'Doyle brings out his own gun and shoots Nick to death. Sawyer asks Lowell what date it is and finds out it's Thanksgiving. She tells him how she planned on skipping Thanksgiving with her family for the job interview, and expresses regret for everything that's happened. Lowell tries to cheer her up. O'Doyle hands over Nick's body to Hollister and Buck and asks them to bury it somewhere no one could find it. The next day, Douglas walks into O'Doyle's office and finds him on the phone with Nick's wife. O'Doyle tells Douglas that Nick's been missing for a day and he's worried. Douglas tells O'Doyle he's involving the state police and O'Doyle offers to bring them up to speed on Sawyer's case. While Douglas is telling him there's no need for that, O'Doyle brings out Sawyer's wallet, which he planted at Nick's locker to frame him. Douglas believes Nick is responsible for Sawyer's disappearance and declares him a wanted man. He instructs the state police to take their search to Jonesboro County, where O'Doyle had planted Nick's car to make it look like Nick was running away. Lowell and Sawyer are relaxing at the front of his trailer when he spots O'Doyle's car coming. He instructs Sawyer to hide inside and run if O'Doyle enters the house. O'Doyle tries to enter so he can inspect the cooking of the drugs, but Lowell stops him. O'Doyle tells Lowell that he is the chief while Lowell's the Indian. Lowell still won't let him in, cocks his gun and points it downwards. O'Doyle threatens to shoot Lowell, and Lowell threatens to shoot the flammable tank of ether that O'Doyle is standing right next to. O'Doyle leaves but promises he'd be back. He meets up with Buck and Hollister, and drops instructions for delivering those drugs to the suppliers. He tells them what Lowell did, and they all agree he's been acting weird. The boys show up in a police car at Lowell's place to collect the cooked drugs, with Hollister being dressed up as a police officer. He sees a bunch of footprints on Lowell's stairs and suspects those are Sawyer's. He tells Lowell they'll be back the next day and pretends to leave. Lowell tells Sawyer he plans on using his cousin's car to get her to a safe place while they're out delivering the drugs. He also tells her he plans on running away and starting a new life somewhere. Buck and Hollister break in and catch them together. Hollister points a gun at Sawyer, but Lowell requests that he should let him explain everything. Lowell takes a seat and instructs Sawyer to make them some coffee, giving her an indirect eye signal in the process. Sawyer gets it, and collects the anhydrous ammonia from the cupboard. She pours some of it in a cup and heats it in the microwave. Lowell is explaining to Hollister that he was just using Sawyer for his needs. When Buck notices something strange with the microwave and it explodes, putting the house on fire. Lowell and Sawyer manage to get out. Lowell has a piece of glass stuck on his back and Sawyer takes a look at it. He tells her to run along one of the directions he gave her, while he holds back the others. Hollister appears with a gun and she runs off. Hollister begins shooting at her when Lowell begins to struggle with him for the gun. He overpowers Hollister and takes the gun from him. O'Doyle shows up and shoots Lowell dead. Hollister tells him where Sawyer's headed. O'Doyle betrays Hollister and shoots him dead too. He chases after Sawyer and meets her on the road, pretending to rescue her. He tries to get some information out of her. At first, she doesn't know who he is and thinks he can take her to safety. She tells him everything she knows, but when he tells her he's Chief and she's the Indian, she recognizes him as the guy who visited Lowell the other day. She begins to lie while thinking of an escape plan. O'Doyle parks his car and takes Sawyer to go to the creeks. Sawyer tries to run, but he catches her and tries to drown her in the water. She struggles with him for a while before bringing out the knife she had hidden in her pocket, and stabbing O'Doyle's leg and scratching his face. She then uses all her might to stab O'Doyle's heart, and he dies on the spot. The movie ends with Sawyer being located by the state police, and finally got to the safe hands. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to watch more videos like this.